Hello, good evening, and welcome to another stream by Vlad_chess. So, played an OTB tournament this weekend. I was determined to play good games, no matter the end result. No matter the result, I was determined to go to the battle and just try my best. And as long as I try my best, I can be satisfied, no matter if I lose. And in order to get myself hyped up for the games and motivated, I was listening to King Theoden of Rohan and his speech on the Pelennor fields. So, like going into the battle, I was like, ride, death! I was kind of chanting death to myself while listening to the music on the bus to the venue. So, hopefully nobody picked up on that, or else I would be somewhere in a psychiatric ward. Thankfully, I'm at home and able to stream tonight. Round 5 saw me playing against a Bulgarian near FIDE master by the name of Toma Kiryakov. He was rated 2281, as you can see on the overlay. And on the bus to the venue, I was able to see his tendency, and that is that he plays the Sicilian Kan. So, knowing that he plays the Sicilian Kan, I decided to go for one of the main lines, and let's pick up after the moves e4, c5, knight f3, e6, d4, cd4, knight takes d4, and here there are two main variations, or actually three. a6, what was played in the game, is the Kan. Knight to c6 is what I play, and it's called a Taimanov. And knight to f6 can lead to the 4 knight Sicilian or to the pin variation, which are both slightly dubious. So a6 is a very well-known move. This marks the beginning of the Sicilian Kan. Usually black wants to continue with queen to c7, something like knight f6, and just play normally like a hedgehog setup. We pick up after the move a6. c4 is a good way to combat the Sicilian Kan because it pretty much stops black from executing their desired play in the center with d5 later on. And my opponent was playing quite fast here, so I guess he did not really feel any danger coming. So queen to c7, normal move. Knight c3 development, just defending the e4 pawn. Pawn to d6, a bit of a curious decision, as this cuts. Oops, sorry, that's not how pawns move, unless they capture. So d6 cuts down on some of black's options, and is not considered to be the most accurate move order. And playing this basically means that you're gonna let me do whatever I want to do, which is great news. Like when people do that, especially in a chess game, it's very satisfying. Bishop to e3, knight f6, and now you can start with bishop to e2 and short castles, but it's actually slightly more common and more accurate, dare I say, to start with rook to c1, because that really cuts down on both b5 and d5 options. There will be some tactical problems because of the alignment of the rook against the queen on c6. So that is the idea behind the move rook to c1 first. Okay, bishop to e7, again, probably just normal development by black, nothing to talk about really. Bishop to e2, getting ready to castle. And finally, after b6, short castles, and bishop to b7, we transpose into one of the main lines of the Sicilian Kan. And this is the Maroczy setup, and it starts with the move pawn to f3. So what you should notice here is that white has a lot of light square control, but not so much dark square control. However, it's going to be very difficult for black to execute any pawn breaks because, well, in order to execute pawn breaks, you would have to play on the, you got it, light squares. So knight b to d7, and here queen to e1 was a move that I played instantly for a very good reason. I know the variation. I have had this position multiple times in OTB chess, and the move queen to e1 is slightly superior to the move queen to d2. So queen to e1 and short castles. And now the move g4. The move g4 is really good. Like, I know it sounds silly. It's like, what are you doing? Your king was safe. Why would you start pushing the pawns in front of your king? You were doing great. e4, f3, c4. What the fuck, Vlad? Why are you doing this? Well, it's a good move. Trust me. So h6, that's a good move. And now queen to g3. And here one of the main ideas actually is to move queen to d8 back. But not everybody finds, like especially over the board, it's very counterintuitive to bring the queen back on the original square. So I think one of the main lines goes queen to d8, pawn to h4, and knight to h7. And this is basically geared to towards the idea of not allowing black, or not, sorry, not allowing white to execute their main plan of pushing g5. But it's very hard to find this over the board, so my opponent went for knight h7 instead. I followed with the pawn move to h4. So g5, and I was taking some time to think here. Like, I know it's not a move, and because it's not a move, this has to be +2 already. Already it was sort of like +1 before that. So knowing this is not a move, I'm like, yeah, this is probably winning by force, but I don't know how. So yeah, rather strange decision by me here not to take. And I went queen to h3, which is, like, I was justifying it in my head that I'm preparing in some variations to take, and I'm also keeping an eye on f5 breaks. Like, that was the justification in my mind, you know? But then he played the move king to g7, and I'm like, yeah, that's a move. I mean, if I open the h file, it could be that it flips around in black's favor. Like, I don't know. Like, I was just not really sure what to do here. So I decided to close this flank down, which is like a huge mistake. You can see the eval drops closer to 0 now. So yeah, I mean, that was just really, really bad play so far. But I'm not gonna like insist too much on this position as it's not truly critical. So let's keep the line moving, so to speak. So I played h5, then knight to e5, of course. My pieces are somewhat oddly placed at the moment. However, I like my queen on h3 as it's presently discouraging the f5 break. So I played the disgusting one move threat of knight to a4. I am threatening to take on b6 and then to give a discovered, how do you call this? To give a discovered queen trap. I don't know, that sounds odd. Doesn't sound right at all. King g8, rook f to d1, just improving my pieces. And now after bishop to c8, what else is there to do than admit the knight on a4 is not doing shit. So knight to c3 back, queen b7, and here starts the journey. Okay, so king to h2, just trying to get out of any dangers on that square, and maybe trying to utilize the g1 square for the rook later on. Bishop d7, and now the queen is coming all the way back, guys. So the queen went to e1, then to g3, then it went to h3, and now it's just going to come all the way back. So it's going to come back on g3, then to e1, and then to d2 finally. So rook a to c8. Again, the computer might call these moves inaccuracies, but really pay no attention. It's probably running at very low depth, and there's no real point behind the computer suggesting rook f c8 apart from rook a c8, because here maybe black wants to play the move f5 in some variations. Okay, so b3 just defending the pawn, bishop f6, queen to g1. The idea was to keep an eye out on b6 pawn, and then rook c7, a4. I actually really like this move. I liked a4 a lot. So rook f8, and now king to h3. The reason I played this move is because I don't want to fall for any dumb tricks regarding the f3 square. So like I said, you know what? I'm going to put my king on h3. If we get an endgame and there's going to be some action on the king side, my king is actually well placed here. So that was a very deep, 5-head, 9,000 kilo level. So now queen to e1 and knight to c6. So I thought, okay, maybe black is trying to trade some pieces. It makes sense that black would try to deprive me of the dark squared bishop and get into this endgame, where the light squared bishop on e2 is quite terrible. So I thought that was black's idea. Queen to d2, of course, trying to, at least if there's going to be some trades here, I will get my queen on an active spot on d4, and then I'm also pressuring the d6 pawn. Bishop f1, again, not necessarily an inaccuracy as the engine calls it, but rather a way to improve my piece and put it on g2. Bishop f1, knight f6. So the idea was to not have to trade dark squared bishops in the first place. I want to be able to recapture on d4 with the knight. And maybe, apparently I cannot sacrifice here just yet. So I was calculating this. Well, sorry, no, he doesn't take there. My bad. He just takes on d4. So I was calculating this first. I was calculating this, and then if f4, I thought just something like takes should be fine. And I haven't checked this with the engine actually, so I don't know, but it looks like his knight is going to land on h7, my e4 pawn is hanging, this shouldn't fold. This really shouldn't fold. So yes, I was also gearing up for the sacrifice on g5 with my last move. Bishop c6, and now apparently I'm playing for a win here. So I'm playing for a win, and I played f4, which is positionally suspicious. The g5 square is feeling softer than your favorite toilet paper. So f4, g takes f4, bishop f4, and yeah, I mean, I'm trading dark squared bishops, but I'm stuck with the light squared bishop, and now the g5 square is in the enemy's hands. So really not a good plan, but I wanted to try something. I wasn't gonna just like make a draw and not do anything. Also, I think b5 might be an issue, so I don't really want to sit around on my hands and do absolutely nothing. So that's why I played like this. And if you ask me to calculate lines here, I don't really want to. I'm just playing based on intuition. I guess I'm down to like 40 minutes against 10 minutes here. He's going down on time. So I'm just trying to make something happen and force some decisions from my opponent. So yeah, this sort of knight move to c3 is probably misguided. The engine likes knight to g1 and knight to h3, apparently. Just trying to trade a very strong knight on g5, which makes sense. But then again, do you really want to be stuck defending this endgame where you have a really poor bishop against a good bishop? I'm not sure. Yeah, knight g1, knight h3 is an idea, but again, I mean, I wouldn't play. I'm trying to play actively, so I probably wouldn't find that plan. Because I'm playing for, like, I'm actually playing for a win. Even if I lose, I would rather play for a win than try to make a draw. Rook d3, putting pressure on d6. And now b5. So, yeah, I was a bit upset that I allowed this. There aren't really good ways to keep the structure in the center anymore. So I took once, and then I thought a long time here. I think I thought like 8 or 9 minutes, which for me is, if you know my style, you know that I never think more than like 3 minutes per move. So if I took 9 minutes to think here, then you must know that I felt uncomfortable. That's a clear indication that I'm not really liking my position anymore. And reluctantly, I decided to take and go into this endgame. So, you know, I'm like, okay, my king is not feeling great on g3. But who knows? Maybe my opponent is not going to play so well with the d-file pressure. And I also have some ideas of queen f6 and e5, I thought. So queen to b4, queen to f6. This I really liked, because I thought, okay, yes, he can fork me, but we just trade, and then I take at the end. I take on h6. Yeah, so here king h7 was forced, and then I played e5, mostly to induce d5. Like, I thought, okay, I don't really want my pawn on e4 to be a permanent target, but the drawback now is that I really have to guard the square more times. So maybe this is really not a good decision. Maybe this is not a good decision, but I was trying to make something happen. He is currently really low on time. So I'm just making pretty fast moves here, hoping I'm not going to blunder. And he's down to like a few minutes. So, you know, I don't really want to trade. If I trade queens here, I think his knight is so strong. And there are also ideas of rook g8 combined with rook to b4, and my pawn on g4 is probably going to fall, and the game will be lost. So I decided against trading queens, which the computer doesn't like, of course. And we got into this position with rook to f4. My idea was to get some control over the fourth rank and start pushing this pawn. Like, that was my key idea. I also understand that my king is not well placed and the opponent is trying to infiltrate. So I knew that my position here was bad. Even an opponent in time trouble will find that idea of putting the rook on b4, the other one on g8, and trying to smash on g4. But the rook c3 is way too quick. Yeah, the rook c3 is coming really quickly, and here it's already threatened. So surprisingly, I don't really have much to do against it. And what's funny is I played this move. Again, I thought for a long time here. I thought for a long time on rook to b3 because, well, I don't want to lose the b4 pawn for nothing, and I also don't want to allow any sort of like massive trade. So I was calculating rook b3, and then I guess I was calculating this for a second. Probably I was going to go to h4 and then start pushing my pawn. I'm actually feeling quite okay here. And then I was also calculating what happens if he simply takes. But here, after takes, and rook c3, I have the crazy move, rook to f3 blocking. And it's not possible to win material. If you take here, you're just probably not going to do so well because this pawn is way stronger than this pawn. I will just play b5, b6, b7, bishop f1, bishop a6, and put my rook on c8 and resign. So this I thought was a pretty clean way to win. And then if knight f3, I simply have queen to b1 and intermediate check, and it's not possible to apply enough pressure. I'm going to win quite easily here. So that's what I spent a bit of time calculating here, and I thought, okay, rook to b3 has to be my only chance. And he played queen c2. He played queen c2. I was so happy, guys, because if you remember earlier, I didn't want to trade the queens when my queen was on f4 and his queen was on b4. But here I was like, okay, I'm definitely trading queens now. And I went for queen d3. I don't care, the engine says it's bad. I know that I'm not going to lose on the spot if the queens get traded off. I think I found a nice move here. Rook f to b1. Basically, we're getting ready to push the b pawn. And it's a very nice endgame. Rook f d1, rook b8, b5, and finally my opponent played an instant move. It's like I pushed b5 and he played rook b6 absolutely instantly. Until this point, he had been taking his time, like really pondering my moves, pondering his moves. But the moment I played b5, he just put the rook on b6 and banged the clock down. So yeah, okay. I don't know how I'm going to win this. I know that I can try to win, but I also have to use my bishop on f1 to protect b5 and release one of my rooks from defensive duties. So this is what I mean. It's a very fine balance, and it's probably a position that requires more thought than I gave it, and definitely more thought than my opponent had time for. So rook 1 to b2, rook to c4, and here I found the move rook to a2 with the simple idea, in my opinion, of playing rook to a6 and starting the pawn push again. He played this instantly. I played bishop f1 instantly, and he played knight e4 instantly, as if to say that I overlooked it or something. I didn't overlook it. I knew that his knight was going to land on e4, but I thought my king was actually reasonably well placed here. Again, in some variations, I just want to play rook to a6 and start pushing the pawn. Rook to c1, bishop to e2, knight c3, and this is a sort of endgame that should probably be drawn. Like if black is playing for a draw, they should probably just exchange. This should, I don't see how either side is going to win after knight takes e2, rook takes e2. If you tell me that one side has a winning advantage here, I'm gonna call your bluff. I don't see it. Rook c5, simply rook e to b2, and probably I should reinforce my fourth rank in order not to be forced to take on f6. Like if I give him connected passers, maybe I'm in some dangers. So, I thought my opponent would actually go for knight takes e2, but he tried to play on, so f6. I don't want to allow the piece trade. Bishop to b3. Now d4, very good move. Like d4, I underestimated. This was a good move that I didn't really see coming. Mistake by me, of course, but what to do? I can't say everything. So here I'm not in a good position because eventually I will be forced to take on f6 and black gets connected passers. So I was a bit concerned here because I get bumped off of the e5 square. I have to take on f6 now. And well, I could have, for example, in this variation, I could have stumbled into a cute mating trap. Simply king f4, nice to d5 is checkmate. So I thought it was a cute trap. Seeing it from the distance, I'm like, okay, well, that kind of sucks because it means I have to give this king control over g5. Yeah, well, that didn't happen, thankfully. King g3, rook e3, and now king h4. So, like, again, I am concerned. There are some ideas of knight e4 and then probably just knight g5 and rook h3 mate. But thankfully, when I played king h4, I had seen that I have the move rook to e2 here, which saves the bacon. So, like, if I don't have this move, then I'm completely toast. Because there's no good defense against knight g5 and rook h3. And when I try to defend with rook to h2, there's always knight f3 checkmate. Well, not checkmate, sorry. It's not going to be mate. It's just going to be a queen exchange and then the pawn comes. Still, same result as me. So rook to e2 I found, and my opponent played knight c5. I was very happy. I was very happy here. Like, I actually thought I was not winning, but definitely had better chances. Because his connected passers suffer from a critical weakness. They're not advanced enough. They're not advanced enough, and I can make another passer on the h file, and it's going to be a very nice battle that illustrates the power of the bishop. The bishop is both going to help my pawns advance and control the advancement of my opponent's pawns. So I evaluated this position as promising. Didn't think it was winning, but I thought this was definitely very promising. Rook to a3. I played this instantly. Played knight g5, and I played g5, which I thought was really nice. Like, I thought, okay, now I'm asking some tough questions. I might be just, threatening to push g6 and go rook a7. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Also, the point behind bishop c4 earlier, I didn't really explain it. The point behind bishop to c4 was that now I'm preventing the advance of the pawn, or so I thought. Because I have this check, and then I potentially might have this move. I wasn't sure, like, if e5 here, I'm not even sure how the line continues. I'm seriously not certain here. Maybe I have to go here and then go rook c6. That was also an idea. Probably rook to e7 here doesn't work, or no, it actually works. I have this, yeah. If this, I'm just winning, of course. Okay, so I thought bishop to c4 was a nice try, and then rook to a3. So g5 I was also happy about. So he was playing on increment, he played e5. I was like, wow, all right then. I played rook to a7 instantly, and here he played rook b7 instantly. And I made the eyes of Nakamura. So imagine Gollum when he wants the one ring. He like does this thing with his big eyes popping out of his orbits. That's exactly my reaction. I was like, what the fuck? This doesn't work, man. Like, I'm sorry. If you think your connected passers are worth shit with your knight stuck on b7, I don't see it. Yeah, I just don't really see it. This is the classic 0 plus 30 collapse. I was looking at b6. I almost touched my pawn, actually. I was like, this is gaining a really crucial tempo, but I didn't like that he has the option to still take on g5. So I wanted to do this and nail his king on g7 like this. And I evaluated this as easily winning. I thought I could win this against the engine even, which is probably not true. I haven't tried it yet. I haven't tried winning this against Stockfish maxed out, but during the game, I was very confident. Like, okay, first of all, I'm not facing Stockfish maxed out at 3,500 elo, and secondly, I'm facing a human who is in deep time trouble. So my confidence only increased. Yeah, I believe this is winning even against Maxi. Yeah. Like, that's why I played like this. I was like, wait, this is a Sam Shankland rule. He says, go, if you can simplify into an endgame where you feel confident you'll be able to beat Magnus Carlsen, you should do it. So my evaluation of b6 was not sure if it's winning against Magnus. My evaluation against rook takes b7 was, yes, I can win this against Carlsen, so let's go for it. So I'm not going to leave the rest of the game with much commentary. I think it's, I'll let the chess speak for itself. First, getting the king in position, stopping black from making a new queen, and then just hunting It's pawn hunting season, boys and girls. And the game ended after bishop f3 here. So guys, this was my best win in classical over-the-board chess federated ever.